Now, 1917 was a revolutionary time in world history, and the challenge to the West, of the Western Revolution, of the Socialist movement, of the left labor movement, was one which put fear into the hearts of the owners of property and the defenders of the status quo.
I was working in the camp when the Russian Revolution started. And they had terrific arguments every night in the bunkhouses. The Wobblies did among themselves over the Russian Revolution. The chairman, he'd get up and open the meeting, and he'd generally bang a cork shoe on a table to bring everybody to attention. And he'd holler, he'd say, gather around here, fellow workers, we got a goddamn revolution to talk about tonight. So they'd be discussing the Russian Revolution. This chairman, he was one of the pro-political faction. He'd get up and say something like this. He'd say, well, the Ruskies beat us to it. We got to re-examine what we're doing and see where we're short in this country, because the fact remains they've done the trick and we're still talking about it over here. Then another one from the opposition side would grab him by the shirt and say, sit down, you big Hoosier, you don't know what you're talking about. So it was fast and furious, and generally break up with fist fights, you know, between the two factions.
Between the anarchists and the communists, there were two of them were battling over the Wobblies in there.
Well, after the communist movement came into being in 1917, on the world scene, that is, well, that split the Wobblies wide open.
The IWW was weakened on two fronts at once, at the same time as they were being torn by internal conflicts. The hostility to the IWW for their efforts to improve their own conditions during the war reached a feverish pitch. The IWW was blamed for everything, and therefore the government moved against them.
One night they raided the old hall, carried everything in the middle of the street and burned it. Just as I got near the hall, the secretary come the other way to open the hall, and we both got to the door together. And we didn't need a key to open. It was broken in, our furniture all smashed up, typewriters and books and everything was all over the floor.